Okay, I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Good. Okay, a few yeses pouring in, so I'm good. Great. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm Teresa Doguelli. I'm in Turkey at the moment, which is where I live. So it's 5 o'clock my time. I'm seeing that we're people here from Russia, from Poland, and anywhere else. I don't know. Welcome to you all. Nice little multicultural gathering. And we're going to be looking today at EQ. EQ, which is short for emotional quotient, otherwise known as emotional intelligence. And we're going to look at how it's important for young learners to get them emotionally smart enough to succeed. Moving on to our first slide then, we have an answer to the question of why is emotional intelligence, why is EQ important if I'm only teaching English? Why is it important to me as an English teacher? Well, this is the first answer here. Karen Stone McCown says, very aptly, learning doesn't take place in isolation from kids' feelings. Being emotionally literate is as important for learning as instruction in math and reading. Underneath it, Daniel Goleman, who wrote the book Emotional Intelligence. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Just a second, I'll try to. There we go. Very interesting book, translated into many languages. Writes something which is very telling, which is stress makes people stupid. I.e., when emotionally upset, people cannot remember, attend, learn, or make decisions clearly. In other words, feelings are a key point to learning. If we're feeling good, which I hope that a lot of you are at the moment, then you're going to remember, you're going to understand, you're going to learn. But if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling negative in any way, if you're feeling stressed, then that is going to close a very big window to any other information coming in to your mind. And this is true for children too, which is what we're going to concentrate on today. Now, what kind of feelings are we talking about? This is a seminar for young learners, so if we start right in kindergarten, when children have left home and come to school for the first time, those of you who teach very young children in kindergarten know that little children coming to us are full of insecurities. They've just left home, they've just left mum, they were, you know, the prized little child at home before, and suddenly they're in a big group with other children, they're insecure, mum's not around, they're anxious, there are lots of other little children milling around them. Jealousy obviously is going to come into play now because, you know, before at home, one toy, that's mine. But now we've got one toy, but a lot of children who want it. Jealousy also of other people's performance. Jealousy of when teacher says, well done, little Patrick, then, you know, little Jemima is going to feel, what about me? There's going to be the feelings of being left out and unloved, even if unfounded. For the children, these are very true feelings. There's going to be a lot of teasing when children are around each other, laughing at each other. There are going to be fears. Then there's that issue of pride, starting sort of around the age of 2, the terrible 2s, when children are trying to assert their independence. So by the time they come to kindergarten, that sense of, you know, I'm me, I'm proud, this is my book, I'm so clever, and I'm so good with this toy, and I'm so whatever. And this pride can take knocks very easily. And there's the whole confidence thing. Children want to feel, yeah, and as Martha says there, that's what we're supposed to make each kid feel like being a success. This is our key main point, to be confident, make them feel confident. And obviously they're comparing themselves with others as well as they go along. So this is what we're dealing with. Obviously, when they get slightly older, when they're in 5th, 6th grade, sort of at the upper end of primary, then we've got the puberty factor. The problems now are not toys, but toy boys or toy girls, girlfriends, not being out on a date, being left out of the group is incredibly demotivating, and it's a fear that's always with kids. Kids are still teasing, and now it's a little bit harder. It's picking on other kids and bullying each other sometimes. Puberty brings with it a lot of changes in the body, in the behavior, and this obviously impacts on self-esteem issues. So children or young teenagers, let's say, are feeling incredibly vulnerable, are feeling like most of us felt when we were teens: ugly, small, bad hair, etc. Anger management. This is an emotion which is also something that needs dealing with, because if not dealt with, it can get more serious and can affect other children, and will certainly affect learning, as will mood swings, mad impulses. Children, as they get a little bit older, even when they're very young, can have sudden mood swings and sudden impulses, lash out. This is the sort of emotion that we're talking about, that is absolutely reeling, writhing inside every child. And they bring this with them to the classroom, and we, the English teachers, have to deal with it. If we don't deal with it, not a lot of learning is going to take place, or perhaps learning of the wrong kind. Empathy, finally, is something which is incredibly important. It's becoming the mega important quality for employing people in the future. So this is something that is well worth developing from a very early age. The earlier we start, the better. So these are the facts. This is what we're dealing with. What can we do about it? Now, again, those of you who may still be thinking, or perhaps you know colleagues who are saying, what's this to do with me? You know, I've got too much to do anyway. I've been teaching for 7 hours already. I can't deal with children's emotional feelings. This is just a very quick chart of your, if you like, your troublemakers. Teachers have to teach English sometimes and fight with a lot of classroom discipline at the same time. Classroom discipline, or rather lack of discipline or loss of discipline, actually happens again through emotions. Up here at the top you'll see 3 animal caricatures which are just there to help you to remember the 3 kinds of main problems that we have sometimes in class. At any age, actually. This can go from children to adults. First of all, here we've got your typical sheep. These students are characterized by sort of head down, don't say anything, don't do anything, play safe, and literally we don't get anything out of them at all. So they're not a rampant problem in terms of discipline, but they make a teacher's work very hard, because they're the people that you can't get anything out of. They will just do what everybody else does, and they probably do it very silently. Again, there are reasons for this. These children are extremely anxious. They're extremely worried about being accepted by the teacher, by their friends, and they think that if they say anything or do anything wrong, they're not going to be loved, they're not going to be accepted, and so their choice is to say and do nothing. No risk, no danger, but a very static, passive member of the class. The second group is perhaps more actively a problem. for a teacher in a class, characterized here by the colourful parrot. These are, in a sense, the class clowns, the guys who are like the parrot, trying to fly away from the lesson because they too are afraid that they might do something wrong, they might do the wrong thing, and therefore, and doing wrong, they've always perhaps been punished, perhaps people get angry with them when they do the wrong thing, so they are afraid by doing the wrong thing that they won't be liked, that they will be punished, that they will be criticized, laughed at. So they, rather than being submissive like the sheep, they try to completely steer the subject to something completely different. So they're the ones who are going, Miss, did you see the football match on television last night? Miss, why do caterpillars have 9 feet? And other totally irrelevant stuff, because they're trying to get away from a danger area where they might make mistakes. And the final group, which causes us a lot of pain, if you like, as teachers, is the tigers, the group who possibly are having a lot of pressure at home, maybe from mum and dad. You've got to do well, you've got to do well, you've got to be the first. You know, why are you second? Why did you only get 99%? Why not 100? So these guys are going to attack and do anything in order to be the best, absolutely excel. And they can get quite aggressive sometimes in class. So, you didn't tell us this, teacher. You didn't say we had to do this. You didn't say we had to use black pen. Why did I only get 75%? Why didn't I get this? And this will start early, because performance pressure from home can start very early, from parents, not wishing to cause children grief, but this does happen. Parents do have very high standards. My parents, as I wrote a little bit earlier, were Polish, although I was born and educated in England, and there was a lot of pressure on me to succeed. A lot of pressure. You've got to be the best, you've got to be the top, you've got to be absolutely number one. I'm sure it's the same in Russia, it's the same in Turkey, it's the same in a lot of countries. So, we've got emotions here which are sometimes coming from home, stemming from kids' worries and fears, and are manifesting themselves in the behavior of the group and causing teachers a lot of problems. So, perhaps it is time that we actually addressed these problems. What we're talking here about emotional intelligence, the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others. So this is perhaps something that we should be actually doing through English, in the English class. Actually looking at feelings. How am I feeling now? How am I feeling? How was I feeling a minute ago? Am I feeling nervous? Are you feeling nervous? Are we comfortable? Are we uncomfortable? It's the capacity for motivating ourselves and for managing emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. So at the moment, I'm hoping that I'm using all my emotional intelligence in order to conquer my own nerves with the new technology. And despite the fact that I can't see you and I can't hear you, and our only contact is that little messenger box there on the left, and some smiley faces, some thumbs up, some thumbs down. I'm kind of working here without knowing how well I'm managing your emotions. Am I keeping your interest up? Am I boring you? Are you tired? Are you exhausted? You wish you weren't here? So I'm having double problems here without the actual contact. So how well am I doing? Horrible, tired, grumpy grey face with red lips. Press that if you're feeling really tired, if you think it's getting a bit boring. Press the smiley face if you're with me and if you're feeling okay. Let's have a little show. Got 2 smiley faces there. Neutral, the rest of us. Okay, so does that mean you've gone to sleep? Okay. All right, they're still with me, I hope. Okie dokie. All right, we're going to get now to some actual activities then. All right. Now, again, time is very important for an English teacher. We don't have an awful lot of time, apart from our syllabus, which we have to complete by the end of the year. Headmasters, heads of departments are saying, have you finished that unit yet? Have you finished that book yet? But we've got here a few examples of activities which can be done as part of your normal teaching and working day-to-day activities while you work. When I was a little girl, we used to have music while you work playing on the radio, and this is EQ activities while you work. For example, a feelings register. So if you're taking the register, which I think most people have to do at the beginning of every class, instead of just getting people to say yes or here, why not get kids to respond with a number on a scale of 1 to 10 on how they're feeling. So if 1 is buh and 10 is hey, while you're taking the register, I could say Agatha. I think we've got 2 Agathas here, but Agatha can say the number that she's feeling. Let's see, Agathas, where are you? Would you like to message in at the moment into the message box how you're feeling on a number, a scale of 1 to 10 at the moment? Message? No? But what about Agnieszka? How are you feeling at the moment? On a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe it's taking some time to come through. Alexandra, how are you feeling? Number 1, buh. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey, this is good. 9. Wow! 10. The best. And that's something which you could do every day. And if you've got a number of people who are telling you that they're feeling 1, 2, 3, you could just very naturally say, why? What's happened? And deal with the problem just there and then. It's a little bit of extra practice and in English, and it's better than the comment, what did you do last night? Because we know that everybody did probably the same thing, which is I went home and I had my supper and I watched television and I played on the computer and I did my homework. So here we are dealing with something that is interesting, important, dealing with it before the lesson and doing it in quite a quick and easy way without spending an awful lot of extra time planning it into our lesson. There's also a problem mailbox. You could have a little box in your classroom which you could invite children to drop little anonymous notes into about little problems which may be worrying them. Perhaps they're being bullied, perhaps they are being teased, perhaps they haven't got any friends, and they want someone to hear this, but they don't want to talk to you directly, they don't want to get into trouble, they don't want to tell their parents, because the parents might come storming to the school and say, what's this about my child having problems? Have a little mailbox which you could just open, let's say 5 minutes at the end of a lesson, and address the problem. Another little activity here is a feelings cube. We often have sections in our course books which are to do with feelings. Let's say often starting with feelings like sadness, happiness, hunger, thirst, cold, hot, etc. in early primary. Later on we come across sections which deal with reactions to, let's say, types of films when I watch a scary film, I feel scared, shocked, horrified, disgusted. So if you happen to be dealing with a group of adjectives, dealing with feelings, why not put them on a little square cube, duplicate them, give one cube to a group of students, and in the group, each child, let's say groups of 4, each child can take turns to roll the cube, and then whatever feeling comes out on top, let's say disgusted, they can then tell a very, very short story, memory of a time when they felt disgusted, or talk about something that disgusts them. So you've got a little speaking activity there, and listening from the other 3, talking about a specific story or thing which they connect to that particular feeling. So again, we have got children talking about what they feel and why they feel it. The stoplight poster is something that a lot of schools now in the UK and also in other parts of Europe are using. It's up on the wall permanently as a permanent reminder to children when they get their mad impulses, their angry moments, their huge upset moments, and it's a stop, think, decide what you're going to do, and then act. In order, this is absolutely total EQ management, managing your emotions, managing your feelings. You can get children even to make a traffic light poster like this, and then decide it, the important steps of controlling anger or upset. Number 1, I don't know if you can see that, stop, calm down, and think before you act. This is, by the way, this is also very good for at home, I think, with interacting with husbands and wives and girlfriends and boyfriends too. You could have one of these in the bedroom even. Number 2, say the problem and how you feel. 3, set a positive goal. So actually decide what's my problem, how I feel about it. Actually say, I'm going to do this. Think of lots of different solutions, not just one. And think also to the consequences. So if I do this, what will happen? And then finally, green, go ahead and try the best plan. You can see how setting up this stoplight poster could be a lesson in itself, and would also be very good practice while you're at it of the first conditional. If you hit someone immediately, you might hurt them, you will hurt them, they will go to the headmaster will call your parents, blah blah blah. So let's think of another solution, and you could have a very, very nice practice here of the first conditional, while at the same time talking about emotional intelligence. Actually giving kids the best advice you could give for the rest of their lives on how to control their emotions. So 4 activities here that you can have sort of permanently available, and you can just use any time you think is appropriate in order to address the emotions that are going on in your class, just to start. Okay? Shall we move on now? Some of you may want to be noting this down, I'm very well aware. So hands up if you're ready to move on. Or smiley faces if you're ready to move on. Okay. I'm giving you a little time now to make notes. I've got 5 people have raised their hands out of 65. So I'm giving you a little bit more time there if you want to take any notes or ask any questions about any of those 4 activities. Okay, we've got 10 hands raised to go on. So the majority of us are still maybe noting 13, yeah? So press the hands raised button if you would like me to move on. Otherwise, I'll give you a little bit more time. Like 1 minute. Okay, I see we have about 15 minutes left in total, so I'm going to move on very, very soon. And you can always come back to this later on the Macmillan website. Okay, thanks for replying. Okay, I'm going to move on now. Okay, I'm going to show you now some examples of emotional intelligence activities which are inbuilt into Macmillan's new English World primary course. It's 6 levels at the moment, starting at level 1. And as you can see, this is very clearly not just language practice, because they're learning happy or sad, but as you can see, they are given 6 pictures, and each of the pictures is showing the facial expression for happy and sad. And this is something that we actually need to help children with at a very, very early age, maybe in 1st grade, maybe even earlier. And in fact, children at secondary schools also sometimes need help with slightly more complicated emotions. They cannot, it's been found from lots of research that not everybody is able to read emotions on people's faces. So at the very first level, children here are asked, is this happy? Is she happy? Or is she sad? Is he happy or is he sad? So as you can see, she's happy, he's sad, she's sad, she's happy, he's happy, and she's sad. And so children are not just working with language here. It's not just about the verb to be and the 2 adjectives, happy or sad. It's also about reading the lines of the mouth, reading here it's the mouth that's giving it away, because it's just very simple caricature. But at higher levels, you can actually bring in, or ask children to bring in, photographs of people with different emotions and actually get them to look at the face and decipher what the emotion is. Because this can be very, very invasive, because it's been found that a lot of violence, fighting, has broken out in schools in the USA, for example, because children basically misunderstood their friends' facial expressions. They thought they were being aggressive when perhaps they were feeling something completely different. So it is actually, it can be integrated very easily with English language teaching. Here we have a song. Again, this is from English World Level 4 this time, but there are English course books, and especially English World is incorporating a lot of emotional intelligence, managing emotions work together with English language practice. So here, focus on practicing should. What should you do? They put in a little song. I can't play the song, unfortunately. I actually have it recorded here, but I can't play it on this particular Illuminate program. But it's a nice little song. And what I would do with children is, as I've done it here with you, don't just show them the song, but get them to guess, get them to talk about it, because in this case they are actually developing here emotional intelligence by just thinking about what goes in the blank box. So the song starts. When you're feeling sad and lonely, when you're feeling down and blue, don't cry, dry your eyes. What should you do? And that's a lovely opportunity here to get children to talk, to practice their grammatical items should, and talk about their own personal life. So I think you should watch television, read a book, drink a nice cup of tea, have a banana. Bananas are great, etc. After children have brainstormed ideas, discussed what they do, what they think you should do, then finally they can see the song and sing it as it is in the book, and also find out what the book suggests. So the answers in the book are, what should you do? You should jump up and down. Obviously, if you're a kid, not me, I've broken my foot, so I think I'll stick to tea. You should jump up and down, kick your heels in the air, wave your arms like you just don't care, stick out your tongue, make a funny face, and scream and shout all over the place. And they'll have a chance there to, with younger kids particularly, they can do lots of actions as well. So they are practicing the language, they are developing emotional intelligence, and they're moving, learning, and I'm sure that this physical activity will also be a great brain break so that they can then sit down and carry on learning with a lot more open mind and feeling very relaxed. Again, another little song from English Word Level 4. Again, I've blanked it out. I always like to put in an information gap. I don't just say to kids, okay, open your books at page 42, listen and sing, because there's so much more we can get out of it beforehand. Cover the picture and get them to look and speculate. What's the problem? Can anyone see what the problem might be here? What is the problem? Doesn't seem to be a problem at the moment. Everything seems to be very lovey-dovey, doesn't it? Dogs are lovey-dovey, the girls are lovey-dovey. But can we see there at the back of the picture? There's a little sign. What does it say? For sale. Aha. So what's the problem? One of the girls and her family are probably going to move house. Now that can be devastating for a child, to move away from your friends, your school, your room, your house. I think it's one of the top stressors. I think moving house, marriage, divorce, a death in the family, these are the top stressors, and moving house is one of them. It's a big stressor. So it's here in the book, and if we move on to having a look, you'll see that we're actually here dealing with this emotion, and at the same time we're with the first conditional again. If you leave, I'll be sorry. If you leave, I'll be sad. You're the best friend, the best friend, the best friend that I've ever had. If you go, please send me letters. If you go, I'll write to you. I will miss you. Will you miss me? I will never forget you. Aww. And that is a lovely little song which can bring up, and it's always good, whatever we're doing, whatever we're dealing with in class, is to take it off that page, take it out of the book, and just turn to the class for a minute and say, has anyone moved house recently? Is anyone going to be moving house recently? Yeah? Okay. How do you feel? Are you worried? Were you scared? Yeah? Okay. And just address the problem. It's a lovely opportunity to use English that they're practicing, that they're learning naturally, personally, memorably, and at the same time, the more you talk about these emotions, the more you manage them and deal with them rather than repressing them and then having all sorts of different conflict management problems. Okay, moving on quickly. Here we have a dialogue, and as you can see, it's practicing have got, has got, some and any. And okay, people are raising their hands. Is that because you want me to pause? Or do you want me to go on? Go on. Okay, we've got a dialogue here. I'm guessing that you're saying go on. Am I guessing right? Emotional intelligence. I'm reading your emotions. Actually, I've got very little to go on but these little signs, so bear with me if I'm reading your signs wrong. Okay, you can always come back. This will be on the website, this webinar. Okay, looking very quickly now. A dialogue, some, any, have got. We used to have lots of dialogues like this, nothing new about this. What have you got in your lunchbox, says the little boy. I've got some cheese sandwiches, says the little girl. Have you got any fruit? Have you got any grapes? I've got an apple, but I haven't got any grapes. What else have you got? I've got some chocolate and some little cakes. Very nice, lucky you. She then asks the key question, what have you got in your lunchbox? And he says, I've left my lunchbox at home. Bum, dun, 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 dun. And here we have two more exchanges. And again, I put in the information gap. You could just say to your students, close your books. What do you think she's going to say now? What would you say? She says, what have you got in your lunchbox? He says, I left my lunchbox at home. What is she going to say? Is she going to say, okay, or bye? Again, a lesson in emotional intelligence. And when you take away the little covering bubbles, you'll see we have another little lesson in being nice to each other. She says, would you like a sandwich? And he says, yes, please. So there it is. Beautiful little lesson in sharing, in social responsibility. And again, it's worth pointing that out. This is not just English grammar practice. This is about how to share with your friends, how to think about others' feelings, how to put yourself into someone else's shoes. An important lesson. Okay, very quickly, we've got Dinosaur Rules. Okay, again, practicing must. And this is fun, I think, to actually blank out some of the words and get kids to guess what are the rules at Dinosaur School, because we know that at school, we know that the rules are you mustn't fight, you must be polite, and so let's see what they all say. Get them to guess. At Dinosaur School, these are the Dinosaur Rules. You must, what should we put in the blank? You must not fight, perhaps. You must, and you must be polite. Maybe you mustn't stamp and shout and go running in and out. You mustn't growl and roar, and you mustn't slam the door. These are the Dinosaur Rules. These are the rules at our school. Are they the Dinosaur Rules? Again, this is a little song, chant in English World Level 3, and when the kids actually look, oh, they learn it's the complete opposite from school. At the dinosaur school, you must learn to fight, and you mustn't be polite. I'm sure the kids will love this. You must stamp and shout and go running in and out. You must growl and roar and always slam the door. So everything's the other way around. So again, you can then refer back to this very often. If your kids are stamping and shouting and running and slamming, you can say, this isn't the dinosaur school. Because at dinosaur school, you must shout. But at our school, you mustn't shout. So again, this is the sort of thing which is going to appeal to kids much more than, now when you're at school you mustn't fight, you mustn't run. Kids don't like hearing mustn't, and they'll do it. If you say don't do it, they'll do the opposite. So here we have a little song telling them to do the opposite, and we can say, okay, we're dinosaurs, we can do this, but when we're not dinosaurs, we can't do that. Okay, shall we move on to another example? Here we have phonics. Now all of this, again, will be on the website if you want to come back. I'm very aware of the time. We've kind of reached the end. We can run over by 5 minutes, so I'll just run through very, very quickly, finish off, and then we can have questions if anybody wants to ask any questions. With phonics, another opportunity here for a bit of EQ. We're practicing the sound oi, but the lesson is don't annoy your baby brother. Here's a toy, let him enjoy his toy, don't annoy the boy. Very important lesson for young children, not to annoy their big brothers. And this is something which you could always use again and again and again if they are annoying each other. You say, don't annoy the boy. So we've got phonics and EQ. English World, as many other course books, also have a lot of stories for reading, and all stories, as you know, have a story, have a moral, have a message. And the message here in English World Level 5 is, this boy is a bully. He tries to bully his friends, but he actually, as he tries to chase them over the bridge, he falls in, and the hero, Tim, has to make a decision whether to save the bully or let him drown. And Tim makes the right decision. Another lesson in EQ. So it's not just learning to read in English, it's learning to read and discuss. You know, what do you do if someone's done something bad to you? What do you do if somebody bullies you? Think about it and perhaps come out the better person. What do we have up here? Next one. We have again another story about, again, Tim, who is saving money, and the money disappears. And he also, there's another issue. There are two issues here. There's a little boy here who nobody likes, nobody talks to. That's another issue at school. So Tim makes friends with him. He invites him to his house. While they're playing, or after the boy goes home, Tim discovers that some money has gone missing, and actually later on he discovers that his brother borrowed it. Was it borrowing? Was it stealing? There are a lot of issues there which can be discussed at the same time as reading English and practicing English. Questions like this, for example, how often do you, can be made into more emotional questions, questions that are a bit more important than your common or garden. How often do you brush your teeth? How often do you take a shower? How often do you change your socks? These aren't very exciting. Some of them are quite rude. It's not a question we normally ask in real life. How often do you brush your teeth? How often do you take a shower or change your socks? Why not sometimes adapt from your course book and make it into a self-disclosure exercise? How often do you cry? How often do you laugh? How often do you feel sad for no reason, or get angry, or do silly things? The grammar's the same. It's just the subject that's different. The subject matter is the emotions, and perhaps these emotions are hidden away and people don't really want to talk to them about them because everybody thinks that they're abnormal. I think I'm abnormal. I think that nobody's ever felt what I feel, but an exercise like this, perhaps in a group, can actually help students to see that, oh, I'm not the only one that cries for no reason. There are, let's say, 3 of us in the group who cry very often. There may be, I don't know, 5 of us in our group who never feel happy for no reason. So you've got grammar and EQ combined. Normal little questions which are asked in the course book, like what colour do you like, talk about yourself, if you found some money what would you do, can always be adapted very slightly in order to make them much more exercises in empathy. So instead of you answering the question, imagine that you are your partner and complete the sentences. So if you guys out there were my partner, you would answer these questions for me. So you would write, I like the colour, and you write down a colour you think I like. Then you would write down why. And then you would say to me, after the exercise is complete, okay, Teresa, Terena, you like the colour red because you're wearing it now. And I would say, yes, I do like the colour red. And you will have learnt something about me, and you will also have actually looked at me and thought about me and empathized with me. You could do this with any kind of grammar. For example, you would write for me, if I think you are Teresa, so if I found some money, I would. What do you think Teresa would do? Rush out and spend it immediately. Take it to the police station. Well, there's actually a long answer to that one. I'll tell you some other time if you're interested. But anyway, that's a normal little grammar practice exercise actually turned into something very personal. And if you are imagining that you are someone else, then it's also an exercise in empathy. So we are developing EQ. Similar kind of activity there. 2 people writing at the same time without talking to each other, predicting similarities between them without speaking to each other. They write down the answers and then they compare. When you're practicing present perfect tense, for example, instead of have you ever eaten snake, working in groups. Have you ever broken your leg? How many times have people in this group broken their leg? We could do that. That would be so interesting. Can you imagine in our group today, if we had time, finding out how many of us have broken our legs and then write it down at the bottom. As a group, we have broken our legs 3 times. We could find out how many times we have fallen in love, how many times we've had operations, So again, practicing the language, practicing the grammar, but talking about things that are very important, disclosure, talking about yourself, revealing about yourself, communicating with others in the group, finding out insights about the group and empathizing with each other. Again, a lesson in EQ. Anyway, self-awareness, self-acceptance, questionnaires about knowing yourself. So in this one, you have to choose an object, choose first of all an animal, cat or dog. I choose dog. Football or computer, computer. Books or music, books. And G is where I end up, and underneath there's a key which tells me that I am a very clever person, but I sometimes like to spend time by myself. So little questionnaires are sort of things that young people love to do, finding out about themselves. This is from English World 2, Level 4. Again, it's a lesson in emotional intelligence. And finally, something that I often used to do with my students at the beginning of a lesson. They come in very often with negative feelings. Just play some music, get them to write down on a piece of paper all the negative feelings that they are thinking, then get them to screw the piece of paper up, throw it in the bin, and then they can start learning English. Then they can start the lesson. Sometimes, rather than talking about things, just getting people to write down all the bad things that have happened to them, present perfect, are happening to them, present continuous, happened to them yesterday, simple past, whatever it is you want to practice, but real feelings, write it down, scrunch it up, throw it in the waste paper basket, and then their minds are free to continue learning. And get them to give each other a medal sometimes for things that they have done well. Get them to sing a little song to celebrate when they're learning comparatives and superlatives that they are the best, better than the rest. Just get them sometimes to celebrate feelings while they're learning. So that's kind of what I was talking about today. There are many, many lessons in both in the course book, and we can also create little opportunities outside of the course book. We can adapt the course book to make sure that we work on the following things in children and young learners, and teens too. Self-awareness, knowing what you're feeling. Personal decision making, knowing what to do if you feel bad. Managing your feelings, remember the stoplights. Handling stress, deciding what to do, handling their own stress. Empathizing with other people. So if they read a story, would you do what the Little Red Riding Hood did? Would you do something different? Getting them to communicate and share with each other what they feel, what they think. Getting them sometimes to talk about, self-disclose, little things that bug them. Get them to find out more about each other. Again, while practicing, how many times have you broken your leg? I've broken mine 3 times. Caroline, I think, can beat that record. Insights. Self-acceptance. You know, thinking you're okay, thinking you're the best. Not always a bad thing. We need it in English language and learning. Personal responsibility. I shouldn't forget my lunchbox. Assertiveness, being able to say what you feel, rather than blaming other people, rather than saying, you're picking on me, you're making me feel bad, saying, when you say this, I feel bad. Talking about your own feelings. Group dynamics, how people are getting on with each other in the group. Teamwork, partnership, pair work, and conflict resolution. There are opportunities for all of these while we are teaching. We don't always have to plan separate activities. And remember that every time you react to a pupil, 29 others learn a lesson. Emotional intelligence is all around us. So let's not ignore it. Let's just work with it. And I think you'll find that this will help both teaching English and getting students to use the language naturally and actually helping them to develop as people at the same time. Thank you very much. So, are there any questions? Or have I gone on for too long? Caroline? Anyone there? So I'm sitting here, I'm open to any questions which any of you may want to write in the message box. If any of you need to go, rush off, that's fine. The seminar is finished, the webinar, but I'm still here. So if anyone would like to comment or if anyone would like to ask any questions, the message box, I'm watching it. So, for those of you who are still with us, if you found anything in that seminar useful, something that you can actually use in your classes, something that you didn't know before, would you like to press the hands up, or the ticks, or the smiles? So we've got one hand raised, so one person can use, two people can use, five people can use some of those activities with their students, 8 people, 10 of 63, good, 10 people, 12 people, 13 people can use some of those activities with their students, 13 people out of 63 can use something of that activity, 15 people, that's great, that's fantastic. Even 1 or 2 little activities, even a little bit in a lesson, even once a week, will make a difference, like that starfish. You know the story of the starfish and the little boy who threw him back into the sea. It might not made a big difference to the sea, but it made a very big difference to the starfish. Yes, 18 people have replied positively now and said that they could use some of those activities in their lessons, or at least are aware that emotional intelligence is there to be worked on. Self-awareness, awareness is also very important. Sweet sheep. Yeah, the classroom management is difficult because we are dealing with emotions, and therefore It might be that when they're actually talking about their emotions, when they're actually talking about their feelings, they will stop actually being disruptive, but they will actually get involved in talking about the things that are bugging them at the time. So an activity like we saw where they have a group poster to make, or they have a group questionnaire. How many of us, or how often do we feel like this, like this? Some of these activities, because they are dealing with emotions, might settle these children down who are malicious, as one of you said, who, see, they're not really malicious, but something is bugging them. It's under the surface. And perhaps just being able to talk about emotions will help them. But it's not easy, of course. It's going to be difficult for all of us. But the most important lesson is ignore emotions at your peril. This is where we lose total control, not through pair work or group work. We lose total control when emotions are out of control, when kids' emotions get out of control. Which is why we need to really be thinking about some kind of activities which are practicing English, are practicing grammar, but are also working on empathy, on conflict resolution, on handling stress, on self-awareness, whatever. Good, I see 21 people of 62 have raised their hands, so I'm assuming that at 22 now, so that's about a third of the people present at this webinar have found certain things in this webinar useful that they will be able to apply in their own classes. That's good. That's good. And going up. Anyone like to say anything else? I'm just reading through some of the messages. I'm glad you like the pictures. Yeah, the sheep are sweet, but you can't get anything out of them, can you? And they not only do they need you to tell them how good they are sometimes, they need to be able to say it themselves. It's very difficult in our society to say, I am good at. But that's what assertiveness is teaching us. And self-acceptance and self-awareness. It's not vanity to say, okay, I'm a good speaker, but I'm not very good at, let's say, technology. You can always balance what you say. And teaching kids the difference between I'm the best speaker there ever was versus I'm a good speaker, but I'm not a brilliant writer. Just knowing yourself, knowing your strengths and weaknesses is what